Every Mii down in Miiville liked Amiibas a lot. But the Cap, who lived just north of Miiville, did not. The Cap hated Amiibas the whole Amiibas season. Now, please understand, no one quite knows the reason. Some say his hat was too tight, beyond any doubt. Or perhaps his Maynards had begun freaking out. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his vibes were 2 sizes too small. But, whatever the reason, his vibes or his hat, he stood there on Amiibas Eve, hating the chat, staring down from his ship as a lurking observer at the general discussion below in the server. For he knew every Mii down in Miiville, as the lights went dim, was busy now hanging their Yankees with no brim. And they're hanging their Yankees, he snarled and sneered. Tomorrow is Amiibas, and everyone is here. Then he growled with his big scary fingers drumming, I must find some way to stop Amiibas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the theys, he's, and she's would arrive super late. They'd rush to VC. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise. Noise, noise, noise. The one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Miis, young and old, would sit down to game. And they'd game. And they'd game. And they'd game. Game. They'd game on Mii Station in Rare Jackbox 3, which was something the Cap couldn't stand to see. And then, they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Mii down in Miiville, the tall and the small, would chat there together, Donkey Konga streaming. They'd play peer-to-peer, and the Miis would start screaming. They'd scream and they'd scream and they'd scream. And the more the Cap thought of this Mii Amiiba scream, the more the Cap thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 21 months I've put up with it now. I must stop Amiibas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. A Pogger's idea. The Cap got a Kremlin-y Pogger's idea. I know just what to do. The Cap's laugh, sharp as a razor. He ran to his closet to grab his fly blazer, and he struck a pose, raising his hands in such a way. With this jacket and posture, I look like Reggie Fils-Aimé. All I need is a Zeebly. The Cap looked around. But, since Zeeblys are scarce, there was none to be found. But did that stop the old Cap? No! The Cap simply said, if I can't find a Zeebly, I'll make one instead. So he called his best mod, then he took some green thread, and he sewed a big hood for the top of his head. Then, he jumped in the air, despite his bad knee, into a barrel, and he brought along Z. Then the Cap said, okay, and the barrel shot down, towards the homes where the Miis lay AFK in their town. The daytime had come. No Miis were still there. One Mii in particular fell asleep in her chair when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Reggie Cap yacked, and he climbed on the roof, bridge cases all stacked. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight gap. But if Reggie could do it, then so could the Cap. His body was ready, all the way through. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Mii's Nendroids all hung in a row. These Nendroids, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most disfigured, around the whole room, and he took every figure. Figmas, Totaku, he took the whole lot. He even took the handcrafted King Croc. And he stacked them in cases, then Cap, very nimbly, stuffed all those cases, one by one, up the chimbley. Then he scrolled through the channels, he locked the VC. He took the Me Station, he took Jackbox 3. He cleaned out the VC as quick as a flash. Why, that Cap even took their last copy of Smash. Then he stuffed all the loot up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Cap, I'll stuff up the VC. And the Cap grabbed the VC and he started to prod, when he heard a loud sound like the bark of a dog. He turned around fast and he saw a small me, little Sealweemy, who was no taller than 3. The Cap had been caught by this tiny me seal, who got out of bed for a fast-breaking meal. He stared at the Cap and said, "Reggie Fils-Aimé, why? Why are you taking our Amiibas VC? Why?" But you know that old Cap was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little thought," the fake Reggie Fils-Aimé lied. "The chat in VC seems to lag server side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there. Then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted his head, and he got him a drink, and he sent him to bed. And when Sealweemy went to bed with his cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the VC up. Lastly, he snagged the bot, and his playlist was fire. When he went up the chimney, himself the old liar, on the server he left nothing but a Twitch notifier. And the one emote left that the Mies could still use was an Uno reverse to fill the chat with no use. It was 1:15 noon, all the Mies still abed, all the Mies still a snooze, when he stashed all that bread. Stacked tall on his back, the statues, the pins, limited releases, collector's editions. 3,000 feet up he shot to his helm, to stash all the treasure he stole from this realm. "Ho ho ho! Get a load of this loot," he laughed from his chair. "They're finding out now that their server is bare. They're just waking up, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Mies down in Meeville will all cry boo-hoo." "That's a noise," grinned the Cap, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Cap put his hand to his ear. He listened in close, he needed to know. It started in low, and it started in slow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry. Very. He stared down at Meeville. The Cap popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every me down in Meeville, the tall and the small, was singing without any games there at all. He hadn't stopped Amiibas from coming. It came! Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Cap let out a Crash Bandicoot, "Whoa!" And he stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without figures. It came without games. It came without any new pre-orders to claim. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Cap thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Amiibas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Amiibas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Meeville they say that the Captain's small vibes grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his vibes didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the dim evening night. And he brought back the games, he unlocked the VC, and he himself, hosted Jackbox Party Pack 3.
Okay,